In this video, we are going to learn how we can filter the aggregated values using group by with having. So what is having clause and why do we need it? Well, the having clause allows you to filter the data you retrieved after the group by is performed on the table. And what is group by? In group by, we group together the rows containing the same value. Let's explore the last lesson's example to figure out how this clause works. If you recall, this is the regions table on the left, storing the basic geographic data for regions in the continent North America, where some employees work in. Your task was to find out how many regions are present for each country. We also understood how to get the output. We know that we needed to get each distinct country in a column along with the associated number of regions. Fantastic. So we got the SQL code to solve our question. Now let's consider a slightly different problem. Here, the problem is modified as find out how many regions with odd numbers are present for each country. So the problem has slightly changed. Pay attention to the condition of odd regions ID. So now I have a follow-up question for you all. Does it make sense to filter this condition on regions ID with odd ID before or after the grouping is done on the country? Take a moment and think about this, that it would be before or after the grouping, that is before or after the group by statement. How do we apply the filter? Okay, so let's figure it out together. When we perform the group by for each country, we considered these observations. Here we see that the rows containing all possible region ID were considered or were taken into account. That is, United States was associated with 3 regions having region ID 1, 2 and 3. Similarly, Mexico was associated with region ID 4 and 5, count came as 2. And on similar lines, we have for Canada as well. Region ID considered was 6 and 7 and we got count as 2. This time, the problem is changed. We need to count for only odd region IDs. So we see that this condition needs to be applied before the grouping is done by country. We need to filter out the data which is having just the odd region ID. Now, can you visualize the output to your problem? Let's remove all the values in the number of region columns of a previous output and add the values based on how many regions we get with odd region IDs for each and every country. So pause the video and write the values on your own for practice. Alright, let's see if you got it right. For United States, 2 regions have odd region ID. Mexico has 1 odd region ID. Similarly, Canada has 1 odd region ID. Great, awesome work. Now that we saw that the output, whatever we got over here, 2, 1, 1, let's update this SQL also, as it also needs to be modified as per the problem. According to the task, we need to filter based on the condition that region IDs have to be odd. And we established already that this condition needs to be applied before the grouping is done by country. Can you figure out the code we have to add? Take a moment and think about it. What clause have you used in the past to filter the data? What operators do we use to write the condition? Think about all this and figure out that what is the clause that we have to write over here. If you guessed where clause, you are correct. This where clause filtering is added just before group by country, where region ID modulus 2 is not equal to 0. If you recall from your arithmetic operator lesson, we use modulo division by 2 and check if the remainder value is not equal to 0 to check if the number is odd or not. Let's head on over to Metabase and explore our example and see if we get the same outputs. We are going to work with regions table. So first thing, let's see the regions table. It's always good to write the statement as a comment as what you are going to do. So what we are going to check over here is regional data, right? So the first thing that we will do is we will check how our regions table look. So what we have to do, we just need to do a select star, which means select all the rows that you have in the table, whichever we are going to mention over here. In our case, it is region table. So from which table we want these details? We want it from regions table. And execute the query. So we got the regions table. This is the same table that we have seen in the example as well as in the last session, which has region ID, region and country. Different region IDs are mentioned from 1 to 7. So in total, we have 7 rows with 3 columns over here. Now, we will modify our query. What we have to do over here is we need to find total regions in each country. Select, things remain same. What is the first column that we require is country. Second column we require is count of regions, that is the number of regions. So count regions. And I don't want the name to be as count region. I want to give a different name. So let's name this column as number of regions. From which table we want this? We want it from regions table. And now we have to do a group by. Group by on which column? That is country column, because we want country wise these details. Let's execute this piece of code. And we got an error. Why we are getting the error? It is saying that the regions table doesn't exist. So you have to be very cautious that what you are mentioning in the name of the table. The name of the table starts with a small r. These small mistakes can also lead to not running of your code. Now if you execute, still we are having a problem. That is the regions column is there. It is not regions, it is region. So let's do the correction. These problem keeps on coming. This is how you debug it. You understand how you get the solution to this. If you see code is executed, we are able to get 3 rows with 2 columns as the output. First is the country column, which we mentioned in select. Second is the number of regions over here. We have used the aggregation function, that is the count. Since we wanted to get the number of regions, so we have used count as the aggregation function. We used group by. Group by is done on the country column and we got the output. United States is having 3 regions, Mexico is having 2 regions and Canada is having 2 regions. This is the original result that we have also seen in our theory part. So let's proceed further. Let us consider the where clause example. What we were having over there is total regions with odd regions for each country. That's what we want to achieve, right? Total regions with odd region IDs, right? For each country. This is what we have to do. And what we have seen just now, how we will write this query, everything remains same except we add one more clause. Now what we have to use is where clause over here. Where, what is the condition? That region ID should be odd. How to do that? Region ID modulo 2 not equal to 0. If it is equal to 0, it means it is even. If it is not equal to 0, it means it is odd. Now, last portion, that is group by on which column? That is country column. Done. Let's execute this. And we got 3 output over here. So we have covered this thing earlier also in the lesson, that we modified the group by code to have a filter, that is the where clause, and this occurs just before the grouping. So awesome. We got the expected output that United States has 2 regions which are odd, Mexico has 1, and Canada also has 1 such region. Now, in our original question, we had to find out how many regions are present in each country. On this screen, you can see the output and corresponding code. What if this were the question indeed? What is the question now? The modified question says, find out how many regions are present for each country having less than 3 regions. In other words, we simply have to filter the countries having less than 3 regions. So let's think, what should the output be? It looks like we could just filter the results after we get the table from the group by output, right? Once we get the number of regions, I can filter this out and say that which are having regions less than 3. Applying the filter, we get these shortlisted rows. These are the region counts for the countries that have less than 3 regions. Mexico and Canada have 2 regions, hence it should be present in the output. United States should be removed from the output since it has 3 regions. It doesn't fulfill our condition. So, how should the code be written? Well, let's see. To get our output, we have to first perform a group by country to get the respective count of number of regions, right? And then we need to apply the filter. In other words, we are performing filtration after the group by. So we can't use where. If you recall in the previous example, where we were saying odd region IDs, we used where clause before the group by. So this is the requirement. Where clause comes before group by, not after group by. So if you have to filter after group by, you can't use where clause. There has to be something different to do that filtration. So this after filtration should be done by some other clause. And the answer to that is the clause which is known as having. Group by with having. That is the one which will give you the required output. Well, we added one line of the code after group by country is performed. This is to specify the condition having number of regions less than 3. And thus, we have solved a question to find out the count of regions for each country having less than 3 regions. If you see after group by, we are using having, we are saying number of regions. Number of regions is no column as such in your original table regions. It is an aggregated column that you are having. So whenever you have any aggregated column and based on that you need to do a filtration, you should use having clause. So let's verify this in the Metabase. Let's solve a problem to filter the countries having less than 3 regions. We will modify the code. Before that, as usual, let's add a comment that what we are achieving. We are going to add a clause, that is having clause, which will help me in filtering those countries which have number of regions, total number of regions less than 3. Less than 3. This is what we require. Let's run this piece of code. And we got the desired output, right? We got the same solution that we have seen just few minutes back. Canada and Mexico are your output with 2 regions each. Let us explore another problem with a larger data set. Consider the table employee detail. So what we are going to see is employees table. So employee details table. As usual, let's first see this table, what all columns you have. Already you are quite familiar with this, but still let's see all the rows. Select star. From which table we want? We want from employee details. Employees detail table. Let's execute this to see all the rows. And we got the desired output. You are quite familiar with this thing. The total that you can see over here, we are having good amount of rows, around 100,000 rows we are having with these different columns. We have already gone through this, so we are not getting into details. Let's explore this further and let's get a question over here to see how we can use group by and having. Let's say we want to fetch the department in which employee count is greater than 50. Right? You know how we have to do this? First, let's see what we are doing and then we will see how to do it. We want which has employee count greater than 50. This is what we want to achieve over here. How we will do this thing? Let's think about this. Let's break this into multiple steps so that it is easy to solve, and then we will write the query. What we need is, we need to find out the total number of employees in each department, right? How we can do that? We already have learned group by in a previous lesson, so let's use that over here. Let's write this query. Select, of course, we need the department. So select department. What else we need? We need the count of employees, that is using the aggregation function. Count employee ID, that will give you the count of the employee. We want to name this column as total employees, right? From which table we are picking this up? From employees detail table. And we need to do a group by. Group by on which column? Because we want department wise the count of employees. So group by on department column. Done. Let's execute this piece. And we got the output over here for different departments. How many employees are there? If you see, sports department is having 34 employees, tools department is having 39, clothing is having 49, phones and tablet 35, so on and so forth. All departments with their respective number of employees is mentioned over here. In total, we have 27 rows returned and we have 2 columns over here. So that's fine. We have achieved first piece of our question. That was to get the total number of employees for the department, for each and every department. But second piece says we want to get only list of departments where employee count is greater than 50. That is what we want to achieve. So we have all the details. We just need to modify the query. So we will modify over here, and we know to which clause we have to modify, that is having clause. Why not where clause? Because where can't be used with aggregated function. And where to use having clause, that is after group by. So having what? Total employees We will filter on this total employees greater than 50. This is the aggregate function that we have used, count employees and name the column as total employees. Same column we are using to filter the output of group by. Let's execute this. And we got 3 rows with 2 columns, department and total employees. Department is first aid, it has 58 employees, movies 56 and device repair 51. All these 3 departments have number of employees greater than 50. Note that we are using having after the group by. Let's say I want to order my results. Order by clause can be used standalone also, just with from or anything else. But in this case, you can't use it before from. We need to order by the number of total number of employees. That is group by, then having, then order by. So order by total employees. That is the aggregated column that we are printing over here. Same column, I have to do a order by also, and I am doing it in descending fashion. See, it remains same because we were already getting it. But in case I want to change it, I want to make it ascending. So you have to just change the keyword from descending to ascending. That is ASC. And if you execute it, the one which is having the lowest number of employees comes on top, that is device repair, followed by movies, that is second highest with 56, and the highest amount or the highest number of employees are there in department first aid. That's why that is the last row that we have. So we saw over here that how we can sort our output as well. This is the complete syntax of group by with having condition. As usual, we have the select statement and the syntax for group by, but in the end, we add the keyword having and then the condition. As we use keywords and, in, or inside the where clause, similarly they can be used inside having clause as well. Note that having clause comes after group by clause. Well, we have learned how we can group the data and also filter the data. In next video, we will see how we filter specified data with some keywords.